All right. So, what were you saying about the movie?
I have an outside opinion on it. Not really a fan of it. I thought it was there's just something about it that just didn't jive with me. Um, I mean, I think Robert Patterson was a fine Batman. Um, it just didn't fully click as well as like Christian Bale as Batman. Um, I don't really remember the prior Batmans too well. Um,
Though there was a lot of other
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Batmans.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm just, I mean, he's just another iteration of it, of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Um, um, yeah, I think the fight sequences with him were great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, 3 hours is a lot to like a 3 hour movie is a lot to digest.
Was it just hard to keep? You think it was like hard to keep track of everything?
Maybe a little.
I mean,
There are just some parts that just felt super boring for me.
what parts in particular?
Maybe I mean, the detective stuff was good. It was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just like the filler interactions between characters was what kind of killed the mood.
Maybe it's like Commissioner Gordon was kind of like. I think he is probably one of the weaker actors.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
he was kind of like he's like the stereotypical cop guy that
yeah,
everybody works for in the movies. He's like,
yeah,
get your ass and like
yeah.
get those papers on my desk by Monday.
Yeah, it was very just like stereotypical kind of a
I don't think he brought anything to the table.
no. And before it leaves my mind, the whole thing with Zoe Kravitz like Catwoman and Batman like the all of a sudden love thing. I don't know if it felt all of a sudden for you, but for me it felt very not natural and just weird and
So they clearly had chemistry. They did. Okay, so in my opinion, they had
it
chemistry.
didn't feel like it to me.
So there was like a lot of sexual tension between them.
Okay.
So from when I was watching the movie, and then it was like, okay, but what are they gonna do next? What are they gonna do about it?
Yeah.
And then they really kind of just like they left it off at a kiss,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't think that they developed any kind of like.
Just
It's just like a like honestly, it just seems like a superficial like sexual tension
yeah,
type thing.
it was just put in there for the sake of just adding a romance aspect to it,
Yeah,
which it
yeah.
didn't feel real. And then at the end, all of a sudden, like, oh, I'm gonna explode these areas in the city, and then it's just gonna be like the world's ending for the city with like the flood, and that felt really strange.
Well, I mean, I think the other thing too is like, ultimately you realize that the Riddler was like inspired by Batman,
Yeah,
and he was basically just doing all of this because he thought that
yeah,
he was doing the same thing.
yeah.
You know,
I'm just saying specifically that
like
it just felt weird to me. It just felt strange. Um, I'll say positives. Positives. We'll go back to again. Patterson was just fine,
hmm
and his fighting was great. I thought that what little we had of Alfred, I thought he was a pretty good character.
yeah, he did a good job.
He did a good job.
So, well, that's the other thing too is like they left that relationship unresolved because,
Yeah,
I mean, a
that's
little
yeah,
bit because the idea is like, well, Batman is not a very empathetic
yeah,
person at this point in his life. So,
yeah. I felt like another thing. I don't know how to say this. It felt like this is like Batman's movie,
mhm,
but like he was looked at like negatively, not negatively.
like as a bad person, like a not a superhero.
I had like a whole thought about it while I was watching like the end of the movie, but
hmm
it left me. I'll have to rethink about what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Um, another good. Um, Paul Dano, I believe is the name of the actor who played the Riddler.
hmm
Again, just more praise to him. I think he, in terms of ranking the villains from the Batman movies, I think Heath Ledger will always be the greatest in terms of like portraying the character.
hmm
But I think This
He
guy did. No, he's in second place for
he
sure.
definitely, yeah, I think I agree with that. I honestly think that he's I
Although his presence was like, I mean, you have a 3 hour movie, you had like other characters to kind of shine the light on, but his presence was like there and then it was like not there a lot of it, and it just that felt weird to me. I think.
well, like the fact that he was having Batman do his work for him, that's pretty much what, when it came down to it, when they had that meeting, he's like, we're the same people. Remember,
Yeah.
I don't have the strength to do these things. That's why I had you do
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, he was like leading everyone to all these corrupt people,
Yeah.
because ultimately he's like, oh, just like you, Batman. And he's like, no, you're not. No, you're nothing like me. And ultimately there is like, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
The Riddler's not wrong,
Mm.
because him and Batman are essentially the same person. But the difference is their intention,
Mm-hmm.
or like Batman just doesn't want to hurt people. That's the only difference. Whereas the Riddler is just like,
But he was going after like political figures and stuff like that, which Batman wouldn't.
well, I don't think he.
Or if he was if he was aware, would he have gone after them?
Yeah.
Would he have gone after his dad?
Well, um, so the thing is like I was like thinking about it a lot, and like when he was having that conversation with Alfred about his father,
Mm.
and like there was like a moment where he's like, my dad was a bad person, and he's like, he wasn't a bad person because blah 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 blah, and I was like, oh, I missed that part, and I felt kind of bad because I was like, oh, and then
He was just protecting his wife, right?
right. I mean, ultimately, what he's trying to say is like it's trying to draw this line between like what's right and what's wrong is like gonna be specifically. It's like it's different for everyone else because
It's gray. It's gray.
yeah, it's a
It's
very gray
gray.
yeah, it's a very gray area, and like um, I think they did a good job of showing like Batman's not always like really the nicest person. Like he's kind of an asshole. Like like he I mean, he had Selena Kyle, like he was basically just using her to like get information about people.
Mm-hmm.
Um so like I think once he figured out like, oh, all of these people are like surrounded by the Penguin, you know, uh he probably would have gotten rid of them.
Yeah.
I think even in the like in multiple series he's like dealt with political figures as well.
Yeah.
Like but I don't know. I honestly think that he is probably the best Batman.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think so. Like I know that the Nolan trilogy is the third one's probably, well, the first one and the third one are the weakest, obviously.
Mm.
The second one is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that movie was overrated. The Dark
Oh.
Knight,
Oh, with the Joker.
yeah, with Heath Ledger.
Really?
Yeah, I always thought it was overrated. I always thought that Heath Ledger did a good job, but there's there's a lot of camp in those Nolan movies that people don't ever like. Well, they literally like. There's so much comedy and memes about Batman from those Nolan movies, just because of like all of the strange things that happen inside of them. Like Batman's voice, or like some of the dialogue is like actually kind of you know
You mean like people people think he went too hard with his voice? Is that what you're saying?
well, yeah, he had like I mean, his voice wasn't like it made it hard to take seriously. And then it was like, then when you watched him fight Bane, it was like two people making weird, funny voices fighting each other. It was like, and he's like, and then, like,
I mean, I don't I don't know. That doesn't seem as far fetched to me because I mean, Batman's just trying to hide his identity, and then Bane has like a breathing apparatus,
well, I mean, yeah, but like,
and then like
it's still like I get why it happened. I just don't think it was like it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it works, yes, but is it a little weird? I think so. Like is it
I
is
think
it
it makes it more memorable.
is it bad? No, I don't think
Yeah.
it's bad. Does it make it a little camp? I think so. But I mean, and that's only like Bane and like
I thought it made it like really cool. Like,
you think so?
yeah, I don't just the way he spoke, even with his voice, it just in such a calm manner. Like he believed fully that no matter what happened, everything was gonna go his way.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is like, uh, they just man, they had a lot. There was a lot in this movie that happened, and
Yeah, 3 hours. It's a 3 hour
three
movie.
hours, and I think they for a 3 hour movie about Batman, I think they did a good job. But I mean, that's just my opinion. I know you don't feel that way, and that's perfectly fine. I just um I do think you're not wrong about it that the love story is like a little it's forced.
Shoehorned for
It's
sure.
shoehorned in there at the end, but they weren't given enough like chemistry to kind of like if they had just kind of built it. So the problem is that they didn't have the things that the Nolan movies did really well is they always had one giant build up to like an awesome like ending action scene where
Mm.
like what is it like the scarecrow comes in and like takes over the city or whatever, and then it's all like you have Ra's al Ghul
Mm-hmm.
or Ra's al Ghul, whatever you want to
Yeah.
say. Like the build up to that is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
This movie is just like he's in jail, but also they're just gonna blow up these things because they need because Batman movies have to have the big like everybody's in trouble in the city.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean,
And also I think the reason why they went with having all the different like Riddlers working for him is because there's also this sort of like it's relevant to
I'm
like sort of
always having like henchmen. That's totally fine. Understand that.
no I was trying to say like to me what made it relevant was like oh people attacking the Capitol or you know what I mean like that sort of thing like it just takes like people to like collaborate on social media to kind of build like a sort of
Oh, that okay.
I think that's what they were going
So
for.
the whole him posting the video thing, and then
And like getting the people to kind of like
yeah.
uh like especially against like political figures.
Mm.
Like you see him saying like he's like have you ever seen like Batman the animated series?
From the 90s.
Yeah.
Long time ago. I don't really remember much from it.
Do you remember Jim Carrey as the Riddler?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Right. That is I feel like to do the Riddler in like a modern movie is a very difficult thing to do because without him being completely camp.
I mean, they obviously clearly did fine here. They just have to find the right angle.
Yeah, but they I think they had to change things about him to kind of like his like I don't think his he was ever I don't
They what's the serial killer they modeled after?
like Jeffrey Dahmer or something.
I'll show you. I think it's the Zodiac killer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yes, yeah, the Zodiac killer.
Like there's a picture of the Zodiac killer in his jacket.
Yeah, they definitely gave him like a '70s serial killer type vibe.
I'll show you. There's like so see they like
The Zodiac,
yeah they tried to copy like the style of like the jacket with the symbol.
right? Um, but I mean, like obviously, like one kind of big thing was like obviously there's always some kind of political corruption in a Batman
Yeah.
movie and like it was really kind of unclear with like what the like in the Nolan movies Batman's dad was a doctor, okay, and then in this he was running for office as well but he was
But
also a
yeah, he
doctor,
was a doctor.
which is kind of a little confusing. And then it was like he saved Falcone's life and then he was saying like oh he only hired him to save his wife or something like that.
Mm.
um, and I didn't quite understand like what he Falcone had did to Selena's mom. I mean, obviously he killed her, but that's like you don't really anything other than that you don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Was it? Do you think it was just like too much?
There was something about it that just was hard to. It just felt the parts that were uninteresting to me made it just like boring.
Oh, like just like characters talking and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just there's like no energy to some of the situations and like
Well, I
and
think.
I understand it's like a detective movie and you're trying to
Hmm.
like you're
Yeah.
trying to investigate and do this, but even like the parts where it was like the riddles,
Hmm.
I feel like they could have put more effort into doing that kind of a thing as opposed.
Like when they brought up the riddles, I solved like none of them, like in time. I was like,
But they were like, "Oh, what's this riddle? Oh, Batman knows it right now."
well, he's also like, he's a genius. I don't know if you know
Yeah,
that, but
that's fine.
hmm
I don't know. I just
You feel like it was too easy.
a little too easy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's that's a fair uh but that's a fair argument against like Riddler and like Batman. Just like, oh yeah, it's friendship, by the
It's
way.
nothing against the Riddler. I think it's just
The writing.
the writing
Yeah.
because they focused on other things longer than others and
I do think like with the amount of shit that they tried to do, there was like no way they had time to like
yeah.
solve long ass
Yeah,
riddles
yeah.
because it was just like but it so yeah, it did there were certain aspects of it that did feel rushed, which I think they're like they knew obviously they knew there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah.
So, I mean I think they did a great job though like the part I always thought was weird was like they just leave the penguin like
That was
that
like
like there was kind of a weird
yeah, the city's underwater and now it's his own city empire. Like
No. I
that's what
mean,
I felt like it was implying. Like he's gonna take over now, like as the main crime lord.
well, because it left a power vacuum, and like I mean, it makes sense. I mean, they were basically building up the Penguin to be in the next movie,
Mm-hmm.
because he automatically was like, I'm just a side character, and he was going to shoot Falcone. He's
But then
like,
he's like, I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I didn't shoot. Though I tried to pull out my Glock. Um, but yeah, God damn it. The fuck was I talking about? My God, there's like I just think like the amount of shit that they had to do in the movie like made it very difficult to kind of like go into detail
Yeah.
and so they were like they basically just took like story elements and then they just like okay, well this is an element that we're gonna work on later in the next movie
Yeah.
and like and so it kind of felt like it was sort of not forced but just not like it left you feeling like they didn't do
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know, man. What do you think? Like ultimately, do you think you would watch it again or
No.
no?
No, one and done for me. But if you're I feel like if you're a Batman fan, it's gonna probably be more digestible and like easier for you to be more invested.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't really a Batman fan to begin with. Just to be
Fair enough.
fair to and like um, but yeah, I would say it wasn't a good one for me.
I think personally, I really enjoyed it, and I thought that they did a great job for like what they had. I just think there was a lot of sequel baiting in there,
Hmm.
and obviously, there's a lot of stuff that wasn't elaborated on, but they they did. Okay, so like if you look at it like a superhero movie, you may not like it if you're like looking for a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
Like if you're looking for like action, but if you're looking for
I mean,
like
it doesn't have to be like the Marvel thing. I just think again, there's something with the writing that just felt
there was
not to what the level I was hoping for.
so to me there was a lot of things that just weren't spoken. There was a lot of things that were like kind of implied by the things that had gone on.
Hmm.
Like like uh Bruce and what's his butler's name?
Red
Alfred's relationship.
Pennywise.
Yeah. Like that kind there's a lot that was going on
Yeah.
there. And then like him and Selena, that was it was all implied. And then besides like like the few moments that they had, you had to kind of try to like piece things together,
Yeah.
which if you're not if you're not paying attention or if
There was a moment, I'm trying to remember what happened at the end or near the end where
uh
I laughed and I thought I saw you laugh too when it was supposed to be like a serious moment. Do you remember?
yeah, I remember you laughing at something, but you laughed at like Batman putting his fists up against Commissioner Gordon or something like that. And it was like I don't really I didn't know why you found it funny.
I'd have to watch the scene again. But
What
I know like the scene where like you see in the trailers where he gets out of the Batmobile and it's like the upside down shot and he's walking to it. I thought that was badass. But then for me, it got ruined when he knelt down and it looked like he was like looking for his car keys. Like I thought that was funny.
but,
I mean, I get it. I get it. That's like, But that was like the first thought that came to my head. He's like, "Oh shit, where's my keys?"
Well, I was just waiting for them to put like the Penguin in prison the whole time, and they
Yeah.
just never did. And
Yeah.
I was kind of annoyed with that. Like he had like 3 or 4 occasions where it's like, all right, you're going to jail, but he just never put him in there. So
Yeah. So he's like walking free, doing his penguin bullshit.
yeah, he's doing his Penguin bullshit over and over again, and then he even tries to pull out a Glock and shoot somebody, and he somehow walks free.
He's like, "I didn't do it."
He's like, I didn't do it. And it's like, even though everyone stopped him, he pulled out a gun in public,
Yeah.
and also caused a giant wreck and probably killed a bunch of people
Yeah, like on the fucking highway.
on the highway. And he like walked free multiple times. Also withholding information. But you also like, well, I mean, they made the Penguin out to be a scumbag because he's like, essentially, Falcone is like old school where he's like, I'm not gonna snitch on people.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as like the Penguin sees an opportunity for,
He's just opportunistic, basically.
yeah, that's why like as soon as you meet him, he's just like, he's only gonna tell you what you want to hear.
Yeah.
So that but yeah, honestly, I think I would recommend it, but like I would say that if you're gonna go see it, don't see it and think of it as a superhero movie. Think of it as like a detective
Crime solving.
crime
Yeah.
movie, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot more. But I also think that there was a lot of influence from the Nolan films in this. Like they almost wanted to be a Nolan film.
Mhm.
Like they had to do like certain story beats
Yeah.
that Nolan films had.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that's.
yeah, and like I also think like a lot of people were like terrified or angry that Robert Pattinson was chosen to be Batman.
I mean, it's whatever. Like that's
Well,
unfair to judge before, but whatever.
well, I mean, it's like it makes sense because it's like, well, he's just the Twilight guy because people don't.
Yeah.
But apparently, that dude has been like as of late
Mm.
in the past like 5 to 10 years since nobody has heard of him. It's because he's been making like
Batman.
no. It's actually because he's been making like
Actually, there's a movie that he's in with Willem Dafoe that I really want to see. I think it's called like The Lighthouse or something. It's the black and white one.
yeah. So he's actually been his acting career like he's a really good actor. Like in the past 10 years, he's made films, and everyone's like that. People that love movies like are kind of
I mean, he was in Harry Potter.
about it, but not like not like Twilight or Harry Potter. We're talking like he's got
He's just in the one movie and he dies.
yeah. And I think like he's got that Harry Potter Twilight money, so he can do whatever the fuck he wants, pretty much.
Pretty much.
But anyway, man, like I guess we can wrap up because it looks like you're ready to move on.
I mean, are you gonna do like the podcast today? Or is...
Yeah.
I'll see about hopping on with you.
Yeah, if you want to, we got a lot to talk about, so
Yeah, man.
it'll be. I mean, like again, it's at 6, so I know that.
Sarah already recorded.
Sorry, recording. Yeah, so I mean, if you want to jump on, we'll be on Discord.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, dude.
It was fun.
Yeah, man.
It was the darkness. It was vengeance.
Justice.
Justice.
Peace out.